Okay. Well, this is Bob Blackett with the Utah Geological Survey, and just wanted to present a review of our NGDS projects. I see the contract numbers and the SAB award. The main contract basically was the statewide compilation of existing geothermal data, and the SAB award, which I'll probably be talking about most, was basically to do temperature gradient drilling in the severe Black Rock Desert of central Utah. We were able to complete 7 new thermal gradient wells in that region. 5 thermal gradient wells were also able to leverage. These wells were drilled through other funding sources. 3 of those were also in the Black Rock Desert. Another area I was going to talk about today would be the northern part of the state in the northern arm of the Great Salt Lake, where there's 2 additional wells that were drilled by the U.S. Geological Survey, which we have data for. Okay, just looking at an overview of the state and kind of give an idea of what projects are going on. I talked about the work that we've been doing in the Black Rock Desert, the blue box in the central part of the state there, and also I'll be going in a little bit of a new effort up in the north arm of the Great Salt Lake. The main geothermal developments in the state have been in the way of the 3 power plant geothermal power projects in southwestern Utah, where in the Cofort area, NL Green Power recently completed installation of an ORMAT or 2 ORMAT power units, actually, with a rated capacity of about 25 megawatts. The Blundell power plant at Roosevelt Hot Springs, Rocky Mountain Power, Pacific Corp. They're still going. They hope to hook up a couple of additional production wells to their system. That's rated at the first Unit 1 has been operating since about 1984, so 25 years of operation. Going on there. Unit 2 was installed a few years ago. It's a binary power unit downstream from Unit 1, and it's for a total installed capacity of about 38 megawatts. And then last year, about a year ago, Circ Energy at the Thermal Hot Springs area, in cooperation with ORMAT, have installed a binary power unit there. Rated capacity of about 14 megawatts. So it brings the total installed capacity of the state up to about 75 megawatts now. Okay, looking at the data sets that we were involved with compiling, the left column you see the existing data sets from the main contract. The right column are the data sets developed as part of the supplemental funding. The left column, most of the types of things probably the other states were involved with, the other western states anyway, involved with mostly quaternary fault and volcanic features, thermal springs and wells, temperature gradient wells, temperature depth profiles of those wells. Also an effort to selected bottom hole temperatures of oil and gas wells throughout the state, and doing corrections on the ones that are appropriate for that. A number of drill stem tests, also developed or uploaded a number of 1 to 100,000 scale geologic maps that we have throughout the state, 30-minute by 60-minute quadrangles. 31 of those. We've developed an online or linkable geothermal bibliography, and probably one of the main efforts to the compilation was the work done by a student at the University of Utah, Mason Edwards, a grad student who did his master's thesis on heat flow and thermal compilations. And there's a lot of crossover, or there's somewhat of crossover between these two groups of information. Thermal conductivity measurements that were compiled as part of the supplemental project also went into Mason's work for his thesis, in addition to the temperature profiles of a lot of the wells in the Black Rock Desert, and also the two wells in the Great Salt Lake, north arm of the Great Salt Lake. Okay, this is a map. This is a more detailed map of the Black Rock Desert, where the supplemental work was done. And what we focus on the Black Rock Desert is kind of a part of the initiation of the NGDS work. We were going through and compiling bottom hole temperatures of wildcat oil and gas wells in the western counties of the state, and came across one at a place called Pavant Butte. You can kind of see that in the center of the screen there. It was about a 10,500 foot well drilled by Arco Petroleum back in around 1980, I think, and it had a recorded bottom hole temperature of about 425 degrees Fahrenheit. So that kind of led to a more of a review of the BHTs throughout the Black Rock Desert, Black Rock and Superior Deserts here, and one of the things that Rick Allison and some of his colleagues focused on was looking at the thermal conductivity, the possibilities of just the thick basin fill sediments overlying a region of high heat flow, causing elevated temperatures in rocks below these basin fill units. It's part of the basin range physiographic region where you have a lot of deep sedimentary basins bordered by mountain ranges, and some of these basins exceed depths where they have neogene fine-grained fill deposits in excess of 3 to 4 kilometers deep. And what you're seeing on the screen there, the colors, are the green area. The larger green area outlines the area that we think has greater than 2 kilometers of basin fill sediments based on gravity data, existing gravity data, and some acquired as part of the study. And overlay that with areas of higher heat flow, which we also focused on with the thermal gradient drilling as part of the supplemental funding. So the orange area you see there is the region we think that has greater than 150 degrees C temperatures at 3 kilometers or better. Where the red area, similarly near the Pavant Butte well, where we suspect temperatures are over 200 degrees C at 3 kilometers. Pavant Butte is a 15,000-year-old quaternary or Pleistocene volcano, basaltic volcano. So that's kind of why we focused on that. The numbers you see on there are actually heat flow values. There's a number of different types of symbols, but the boreholes, the thermal gradient boreholes that are summarized off to the right, are kind of scattered north-south across that field. So the wells you see noted there in the red italics are the wells that were actually funded under the supplemental funding. So we drilled those. The other three in the blue type are wells that were completed here under other funding outside this program, but were incorporated for this project. So the 7 wells were that were drilled by, we contracted with the U.S. Geological Survey's research drilling program in Henderson, Nevada, and drilled about a total of about 3,500 feet. So that's a summary there. This is the main data set from that drilling was the gradient information, the temperature depth data, and this slide shows equilibrated temperatures from those. The deepest wells we drilled were about 800 feet deep, and most of them were around 500 or 600 feet. We did take cutting samples and a few spot Shelby tube type core samples for lithology and thermal conductivity measurements. If you go to the next slide, you can see that the other main data set was determination of thermal conductivities for those shallow sediments. Overall obtained roughly for the wells drilled in the severe desert, the shallow wells we drilled in the severe desert, the severe Black Rock Desert, about 620 some odd thermal conductivity measurements from Maine using two different methods: a needle probe, which is a device you can use actually in the field to measure conductivities, and also a divided bar method, which is a university lab type laboratory situation where a lot of the work was done by Mason Edwards for that. We also, Mason also did thermal conductivities on a number of cutting samples that were acquired from oil and gas wells, from 5 oil and gas wells actually. And 3 of those were located in the Black Rock Desert. 2 of them in the Great Salt Lake. Okay, this is a view of the constructed thermal profiles based on the bottom hole temperatures, corrected bottom hole temperatures of the wells around the Black Rock Desert. You can see the upper one, kind of magenta looking thing, a purple diamond, and the curve associated with that. That's the Pavant Butte well, and as you can see, the temperatures in that exceed 200 degrees C at greater than 3 kilometers depth. But there are other wells there that also exceed 150 C at over 3 kilometers depth. So there's that potential for development of geothermal resources below these depths in the bedrock units. You can see where the upper left-hand corner of the slide there. You see where the new thermal gradient wells, and see what kind of a scale that they look like, but they kind of suggest the similar gradients as the deep oil and gas wells. Okay, recently there's been more of a focus on looking at the thermal regime around the severe Black Rock Desert, and that's what this slide shows. Also considering the potential reservoir rocks beneath these deep basins. All of these, the blue-colored units you see in the sort of the mountain ranges off on both sides of the basin there reflect Paleozoic carbonate rocks that outcrop at the surface that also are projected beneath these basins, and hopefully potential reservoirs, geothermal reservoirs at depth, if that being. Moving up to the northern arm of the Great Salt Lake. It's a kind of a new area that we've been looking at recently, and this figure actually comes out of a paper that we'll be submitting to the Geothermal Resources Council next week. But you see the location of two gradient wells that I talked about the U.S. Geological Survey funded and drilled. One is the Roselle 1 well. You see the notation there, and the Matlin 1 well. They're on both sides, east and west of the northern arm of the Great Salt Lake. You can also see the hatch pattern shown by this, what we think are the deeper parts of this basin. Now this area was similar to the Black Rock Desert, where we focused on that Cavant Butte well. Another well called the Indian Cove well has been known for a number of years now, but it also showed a higher elevated temperature, a corrected bottom hole temperature of about 230 degrees C at 3.8 kilometers. So the well went down to about 12,500 feet and bottomed in Precambrian rocks. But there's 3.8 kilometers of valley fill or neogen sediments and basalts in that that were encountered in that well. Okay. Anyway, so what we're looking at now is the gradient information that the data sets available from those two, the Roselle and Matlin wells, and they were kind of inconclusive. The Roselle well was quite the profile of that was quite disrupted by possibly advective fluid flow in the shallow subsurface. The Matlin well had a pretty good temperature gradient or temperature profile, but still, kind of the jury's out on that part of the drilling process. We need to get more data. Again, the corrected bottom hole temperatures in the region, similar to the Black Rock Desert, show zones of elevated temperatures where we may have rather high temperatures, greater than 150 degrees C at depths of 3 kilometers or better. In the case of some areas, possibly over 200 degrees C. So again, this is a preliminary effort here, and hopefully research will continue. As far as direct products, we had a number of deliverables as part of the main contract. Some of those turned out to be papers to Stanford Workshop and the Geothermal Resources Council, also internal papers published by the Utah Geological Survey, and also Mason Edwards' master's thesis you can see on top. Derivative products where actually other sources were paid for the funding of the project, but actually the NGDS data sets were included or were used to develop the studies shown here. And like I said, the Great Salt Lake paper will be submitted to the GRC probably next week, hopefully, along with a couple of other papers coming out from other UGS authors. Industry interests, the Deep Basin research in the Black Rock Desert generated interest from the folks at Cove Fort, NL North America, as extending possible cooperative studies into the Black Rock Desert, and also Marys River, Toronto Basin of Northeast Nevada, similar characteristics to the Black Rock Desert, and had some industry interest for those. Effective data management practices, effective on UGS data management practices. I guess we never really appreciated the complexity of geoinformatics until we got into to filling out the content models supplied by Arizona, and it's made our agency more sensitive to emphasis on interactive database management, interactive maps, sort of thing. And the And in the past, it's just been a linking. We've been more responsible for just preparing data or getting data into reports, that sort of thing, never really thinking about the actual data delivery. So I think for me, it was an eye-opening experience to see all the intricacies of actually delivering the data online. So I guess that's it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer some.